Hey, everybody, we're back. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. You know what we're about to do. We're about to get into this YSL and this legal shenanigans, all that stuff that's been going on. So, buckle in. We have a fantastic guest tonight. We're going to be talking about plea deals and what is the importance of them. Are they good? Why do they do it? A whole nine. So, if you do have a question, I always encourage you, drop your question in the chat. Just put question in front of it for myself or for my guest. We'll do our very best to answer those this evening as well. But before we get too far afield, I want to say thank you everybody who's tapped in. Thank you so much for going ahead and hitting that like button when you jump in, and then get into the best live chat on the whole entire internet. And I'm pretty certain on Pluto, they don't have a better one either. So we might as well just go intergalactic. We are the best live chat in the solar system. How about that? So shout out to everybody. Thank y'all so much. It looks like lots of good people are popping into the chat. Good to see you all nonetheless. And again, if you do have a question or you do want to ask a question pertaining to plea deals, or you can talk a little bit about this YSL as well, because we got some shenanigans going on there as well. And myself and my guests will gladly talk about it. But without any further ado, let me go ahead and introduce you to my guest, Mr. Kurt from Uncivil Law. How are you doing, friend?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Quite well, quite well. Now, Kurt, I want to give everybody, because I don't know if my audience fully knows you, so I figured this would be a great time, give you an opportunity to tell everybody, to answer the most pressing question in the world. Who in the world is Kurt from Uncivil Law? Who is he?
Well, other than the constant sense of existential dread as I try to solve that question for myself, I suppose I would say that I've been a lawyer for 15 years. My background principally is in intellectual property law. That's where I did my work, was in patent law and as a patent lawyer. So my background is technical. I have a computer science degree. So for 15 years, I did computer databases and computer-related search engines. Very technical, very exacting. And for the last 2 years, I've been running this channel full time where I talk about pretty much anything except that, because I really like to learn new things. And I also have developed quite the specialty on constitutional law. So I'm considered by most of my peers kind of the expert on YouTube on constitutional law questions. So that is basically my background.
Well, sir, I want to thank you so much. And shout out to the lead attorney. Stop by now. Now, sadly, I know you know this guy. Sadly, the lead attorney is over here spreading false information, misinformation in the chat. Man, we got, oh man, look at this. Look at what he said right there. The almost best live chat. Look at that. Y'all stretch your hands toward lead and pray for him. He's wrong. Now,
penultimate chat.
There you go. Now, I will say this though, lead. If Kurt sends me that really cool sign behind him, if he sends that to me, maybe, just maybe, for one day and only one day, I'll let you have the best live chat. But it's on Kurt to send me that. So it's out of my hands. It's out of my hands, my guy. All right. So talking about this crazy thing called plea deals.
Sure.
Now, if you don't mind, could you just explain to us what is a plea deal and why in the world would somebody want to take one?
Yeah, so a plea deal, and we'll get, I suppose, into this a little bit more later, because YSL himself did not have a plea deal. He just pled. But a plea deal is an agreement. Fundamentally, it's a contract at its core. So basically, it's an agreement between the parties to resolve the case in some way. And typically, it involves reduction of counts, dropping of lesser counts, sentencing recommendation. So instead of like these 6 crimes, how about only these 4 crimes, or maybe only the top count? Or instead of 20 years, maybe how about 10 years? Or how about a lesser version of it, right? So it's a settlement of the case. And the reason to do it is certainty for both sides, because you know exactly what you're going to get. For the prosecution, the advantage is that you save time, energy, money, staff. You can spend your time on other things. The government doesn't necessarily have unlimited resources, so you get to save energy and complexity. Plus, an appeal, it kills all the appeal, so you don't have to worry about an appeal. And the advantage for the defendant is, well, you get less than everything that you might have gotten. So you're trading uncertainty for certainty. That's the advantage.
I got you. And now I had some good questions, but because we were talking in the green room, you kind of derailed some of my questions because now
you can still ask them. The chat won't know any different.
Well, now
I can pretend like I've never heard them
I'm
before.
not as committed to them as I was before when I wrote them up. I was like, oh yeah,
okay.
This is gonna be a great question. Now I'm like, I don't know, man. This question is kind of lame. So if I felt that I was innocent, why in the world would I agree to a plea deal though?
Yeah, well, for that, I mean, you can just talk to the Innocence Project about it, and they'll be happy to tell you all about it. But the reasons there are, just kind of the same. It's like, you get to go home in some cases, like you get to go home and not worry about it anymore. You run out of money is honestly the biggest single factor, because you just simply can't afford it anymore. It's a lot of stress on you. It's a lot of stress on your family. Going to court every day, the whole rigmarole of it, the money of it. It can be a huge, exacting thing. And so it's like, if they come to you and you'd be like, how would you like to go home today? That can be a pretty attractive offer. So, the government gets to save some face. They get their guilty plea. You get to go home. They don't get sued. Everyone wins, sort of.
So you brought that up because I've always said that this RICO trial here in Atlanta, we've been talking about the YSL trial. I think raise your hand if you've been, addicted to the YSL trial. Go ahead and raise your hand. It's okay. This is a safe space. I said that it's money laundering. I personally think that it's a
the trial itself.
The whole thing is a form of money laundering. But even worse than that, it's a war of attrition where eventually you are going to get depleted on your funds. Sure, Jeffrey Williams was a multimillionaire, but if you sue Jason, I'm going to be a multi 10-cent heir. So it's going to go bad real quick for me. So why?
Yeah, this case is already the longest ongoing criminal case in Georgia, and there is no end in sight.
Not a bit.
Not to mention the people that are still yet to be tried in separate cases related to this. This will never end.
It's a song that never ends. And I know that there's a rumor that the state was going to rest this week. And I've said it. I'm going to say it again. Good luck with that. I hope you are ready. I don't know if you have a good recipe for crow, but please understand you'll be eating that crow Monday afternoon because they will still be in. The state is not resting. It's going to go till Christmas. There's basically like 20 days left between now and Christmas that you could quote work. They're going to milk the whole thing, but I digress.
Plus, of course, if this case goes up to appeal and gets reversed, which seems very likely, we get to do it all over again. Yay. It was so much fun the first time. That's one of the things people said, are you going to cover the YSL trial? It's like, I'll catch it the next time around.
So in your mind, in your expert opinion, let's say that nobody did that. We didn't have the plea bonanza that we had about 2 weeks ago. You get a plea, you get a plea, you get a plea. I'll cop a plea. If we didn't do that, how long would you say that trial would have gone if Jeffrey and everybody else had stayed in there?
I mean, if the state is looking to rest its case, I don't know that it would have necessarily gone on much longer because the worst charges are the ones that are remaining. So presumably would take up the bulk of their time. But this trial's been going on for a year, and it took 8 months to select a jury, which should be illegal.
Yep.
It should not take 8 months to select a jury. If you came to me as a judge and it's going to be like 8 months to select a jury, I'd be like, no. No, it's not. You get a week.
Right. I have no idea what took so long, but how long the rumor was that it was going to end in February. Was the rumor.
Sounds about right.
That's when Jeffrey and them were still in it. So do you think that it would still end then, or?
Well, yeah, that sounds about right to my mind.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not here to argue with you. I was saying late summer at best. Just at the pace that they were going, there's no motivation to move forward in a timely manner.
No,
If you knew that you were going to your high school reunion, you're extra, and it's in February, you're extra motivated to do things so that you can look and perform, look the role when you go back to your high school reunion. They don't have any motivation. There's none whatsoever.
No, I don't know what's going on in this prosecution. I don't know what's going on with Fannie Willis. I don't know what's going on in Fulton. This case has had so many problems in it procedurally. It's just a minefield. There's just so many issues, from ex partes to rulings to evidence that was presented that was supposed to be redacted that wasn't, to the entire selection process. And I don't even know how, in theory, a jury is supposed to even hypothetically keep this amount of information in their head for this long, even with notes. It's like, how are you supposed to do that? How is a jury supposed to sit on a case for a year and have any semblance of remembering anything, except getting to the end and just being like babbling idiots? It's like, because it's just, how are you supposed to deal with this? How are they supposed to manage this in any sort of way? So I have a lot of problems with this case. I have a lot of problems with this prosecution. Procedurally, it just seems inept. It seems completely mismanaged. And as I mentioned, we still have other people yet to even be put on trial in relation to this. So apparently we want to have that trial for those people, plus redoing this. I mean, when does it end? I don't know.
I don't know either.
It doesn't end.
So,
but the plea deal at least ends it for those people. So they got
them,
that
yeah,
going on for them.
Absolutely. Now, do you feel like in cases that are this large, like the YSL trial, that plea deals hurt or help as it relates to the defendants? Or do you feel like this should only be for smaller cases or such like that? What do you think?
I don't think the size of the case necessarily has one thing to do with it or another. I thought the defense was in a really good position because they can smell the problems as surely as I can. So I thought they were in a really good bargaining position because, like, well, the future looks pretty bright for the defense, I would imagine. And the deals that they got, other than YSL himself, were pretty good. I mean, they sounded about right. They're actually a little bit, perhaps slightly more punitive than I thought they'd be, given everything that went over. The one that really caught me by surprise was YSL, the titular man himself, because he didn't plead. There was no plea deal. There was no deal. He just pled guilty. It was just a straight plea of guilty.
So let's talk about that.
Mr. Williams just threw himself on the mercy of the court, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense.
And you used the term I was going to ask. Is that the term, I throw myself at the mercy of the court? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Okay, that was it. Okay. So let's unpack that, because you did explain what a plea deal is. You and I make an agreement. We make a contract that, uncivil law will stop, prosecuting Jason for throwing gerbils or whatever. Okay, that's our agreement. And we have that agreement. But Jeffrey didn't have that agreement with the state.
Right. There's no agreement.
He just said, hey, judge. So basically he does throw himself at the mercy of Judge Whitaker and say, hey, I'm guilty of the drugs and the guns, of speeding,
and the gang activity and leading the gang.
I don't think, did he claim? I thought the first and the last ones are the ones he did not.
Well, he pled nolo. He pled no contest, but a no contest is functionally the same as a guilty. Legally, It's the same as a guilty. The only difference is you're not admitting to actually doing it, but you're still admitting there's enough evidence. So if you ask me what evidence is there against him, I don't have to answer that question, because he said there's enough evidence against him. That's part of the nolo. There is enough evidence against me to convict me. That's one of the things. And the judge agreed that there was enough evidence. Otherwise, she couldn't have accepted it. She has to find that there's a sufficient factual basis for the plea. So he is the leader of a gang because he's been found and adjudicated guilty. He pled nolo, but the finding is guilty. I mean, it's effectively. So but there's just no admission. That's the only difference. The only reason it has any advantage is in the civil context, because since you don't admit to it, you can't use the admission that doesn't exist in a civil case. So if he were going to be sued by somebody, like, just to take an example, he wasn't being charged with murder, but it's the only example that comes to mind. If he was being charged with murder and he pled nolo, then you couldn't use the admission because he didn't give one in a wrongful death lawsuit. You'd have to still prove it in a civil context. So the only real advantage is in a civil lawsuit.
I got you. Let me I see a comment that I want to bring up a little bit later. Okay, so and maybe you need to help people understand this. Like Jeffrey didn't, I thought, I guess wrongly, that when he said no contest or no low, that he was saying that no, there isn't enough evidence for that.
No,
There isn't. So you're saying that no, that's what that actually means.
yeah, nolo
I'm just not
means
gonna argue. Oh,
nolo is also called an Alfred plea. So there's at least 3 different terms for it. You call it an Alfred plea, a no contest plea, or a nolo contendory plea, all the same term. But yeah,
oh,
you're still
Alfred.
admitting that there is enough evidence against you to convict you.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really.
And the reason I'm like kind of processing that is because Libby asked the same question I had. I don't know what evidence I heard. I didn't hear anything in there that, now granted, I'm not mad at him if he wanted to go home. I respect that. But I didn't hear any evidence that was like that really made me say, yes, you were in trouble, man. You were, this was the right thing to do because they had you over a barrel. I didn't see anything like
See, that's
that.
kind of what I thought. I thought there was a lot of problems. But Mr. Williams says there's enough evidence against him. So who am I to disagree, I guess?
Yeah. Okay.
He just wanted to go home, but that was the bizarre thing. Like, I actually, like, if you go watch it, because I was watching when the plea deal happened, and his lawyer was saying, here's what I wanted, I actually banged the table and laughed in his face because what his lawyer was saying was insane. And then he got it. And then I looked like an idiot. But it made no sense because you're pleading without any conditions.
Right.
Conditions, as opposed to the other guys. It's like, okay, the only thing they promised was to a sentence recommendation. It's like, we'll recommend no more than 20 years, which they did. But there was no agreement beyond that. And so you're pleading to effectively guilty of running the gang, drugs, other forms of corruption. And I'm like, oh, you're going to spend and what the top counts was 110 years. He's facing a possible sentence of 110 years. I'm like, you're going to spend the better part of the rest of your life in jail, son, because there's no conditions. The prosecutor said, oh, I recommend this. And the judge can be like, nah, because the judge, it's never binding on the judge. The judge can just say, okay, how about 60 years? How about 70 years? That number sounds really good to me. But somehow, despite the fact that there was no agreement, he got the plea deal that he had been offered, but he had rejected it, which to my mind makes no sense because the state had basically offered him essentially the same thing. But in order to do it, there were some conditions.
Right.
We don't know what those conditions are, but we can infer it was a cooperation agreement. We can infer it was we want you to rat, which is a pretty standard condition.
I did hear that one of the conditions that he was not going to be able to perform any of his music because that was a part of the furtherance of the gang. So everything that brought him up to this point, he would not be able to perform. He'd have to, I don't know, become a jazz lounge singer or something, but he wouldn't be able to do that. But
jazz is good, man. It's the original American art form.
There you go. I mean, well, Kurt, we did talk about this in the green room before I went live. He did get a kind of an interesting deal, and his punishment, or
he got an amazing deal.
The
judge gave him the best deal ever.
Explain it. What do you mean?
Well, not only does he get to go home immediately, so it's like, okay, I'm giving you time served, so you get to go home immediately, but I'm giving you the most generous probation terms I've ever heard of in my life. It's like, how would you like to continue hanging out with your felon friends? Now, you can only do that if it's for the purpose of making music, but you get to continue associating with felons. Well, that's a pretty weird plea condition. And also, by the way, how about you get to just travel anywhere internationally? You can, and but you have to like go talk to a school like 4 times a year. But you can do a concert if you want, and that counts. I'm like, not only can you still do your music, it now counts towards your community service. That's pretty awesome. And it's just, but the only thing that he has to do is apparently stay out of Metro Atlanta. It's like, okay, so, well, don't go to Metro Atlanta, except maybe for a concert. I'm sure you can negotiate it.
So My argument was that he needed to leave out of Atlanta anyway. My
Yeah.
argument is that if you're born and raised somewhere and you're finding yourself in trouble, it's probably because you were born and raised there. Get out of there. Go somewhere else. So I don't know if Judge Whitaker has been in my live chat or whatever. Shout out to you, Paige. But I think that was probably a good thing. Somebody actually theorized that he could go on tour. He could do a world tour and meet the standard of his probation. Just
Yeah.
stay away from gangs and the any pharmaceuticals that didn't come from a bona fide doctor.
Yes.
Stay away from that
Yeah,
stuff.
that's true. So he'll
But
have to pull a Michael Jackson and get a doctor to follow him around now, I guess.
that would probably work as well. But he could do a world tour. And yeah, I
Or
don't know how
Matthew
he
Perry. That worked out well for him. That worked out well both times for both stars, for both Michael Jackson and Matt Perry. Their private doctors really helped them out in the end.
Yeah, he doesn't need a private doctor. Stay away from that person. But yeah, so that was pretty wild. So usually in plea deals on civil law, do you see these kind of
No, no, absolutely not. No. This is like standard plea deals. You have to show up, and I think only 7 years of it does he have to actually report. So it's 15 years probation. But if I remember correctly, only the first half of it does he actually have to show up. So it's actually only 7 years of probation. The other seven, I guess he's his own probation officer. That's nice. Oh, and he can't own guns, but he can hang around security that owns guns.
Yeah.
So that's still good. And so it was a pretty awesome. No, normally it's keep your nose clean and you have to show up every week and do community service and we're going to drug test you and all the rest of it. And no, this was the most amazing. It doesn't normally include international music rights.
Right.
That's a first, maybe ever.
Probably so. Probably so. I agree with you. Now we talked about some of the benefits of plea deals. What are some of the risks? What are some of the problems? And let's use the contractual, the real plea deal where you and I agree on a deal. What are some of the risks?
The only real risk is that you give up all your rights of appeal.
Oh,
because
okay.
you're just ending the case. So your only real risk is that you would have been found not guilty or the Court of Appeals would have thrown it out and you're giving up any opportunity for that to happen. Okay. Otherwise, there's no real risk in it.
What about the idea, the notion that's floating around out here about the fact that you're on probation and they can find a way to violate you pretty much for things that you and I probably do on a regular basis, but we didn't realize those are violatable offenses.
Yeah, I mean, there's a standard provision to don't break any new crimes. Probation and parole can be a bit of a trap, and there's been articles written about that, about that issue, because it can be very easy to violate parole. You can, especially if you're a standard person, because it's like you have to go to work every day, you have to stay employed. So if you get fired, that's a probation violation. You can't. Wow. You have to travel directly to or directly from work. So if you stop off somewhere, that might be a probation violation. You have to call your parole officer, and show up in person, and you have to do the P test. So the very sort of exacting nature of it can be very challenging for some people. So some people do wind up getting violated for fairly minor things. I don't think that's going to happen in this case. Even if he does violate his probation, he's going to wind up with the same judge be like, test, just don't do it again. So I really have a lot of confidence in that.
He said he doesn't plan to see her again unless he sees her at a bar. So I was like, why did he say a bar? Why did you say at a club?
He's gonna give her a backstage pass. She's gonna wind up on stage. It's gonna be great.
That would be hilarious. Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious. Her on a stage with Young Thug.
She's gonna do a duet, maybe.
Because he's gonna be a lounge singer. Remember, we said he's gonna be a jazz singer, so he's gonna transition from gang trap music to blues. Come on, can you see Young Thug being a blues singer? First thing,
he has nothing to sing the blues about, man.
They stole his watch. They stole his stuff, man. He can literally talk about how they raided his house. That could be the first song. They raided my house and they stole my watch. I can't think of any more about it, but we'll put it together.
I enjoyed the song from the other one who sung about his lemon pound cake. That was pretty good.
I love it. Okay, so now, as it relates to, I think that's all of my good questions about the trial, and I'm sorry, about plea deals, and we kind of understand what you think about plea deals. Now, you did mention, so you're saying Alfred plea and no low and no contest are all the same things.
Correct.
Why do they do that?
Different names, man. Different names.
This is my first time hearing the Alfred plea. I don't remember who it was in the trial that they had an Alfred plea. What in the world is that?
It's
and
no
the way they
contest
described
plea.
it didn't sound like a no low or whatnot. That's my first time hearing it.
There you go. It's the same thing.
What? That's crazy. But okay.
Well, there was once a guy named Alfred, and it wound up being a U.S. Supreme Court case.
Oh,
That's why it's named an Alfred plea. I do like the fact that there's like stories behind everything, because I think people forget that sometimes, and I think that's interesting. Like, it's called Miranda because there was a guy named Miranda. He was a guy, right? And I just find that kind of thing interesting. Like Heller, dealing with gun rights, DC versus Heller. I was like, I've met Heller. I've met him in person. I've shook his hand. So it's like, it's just funny, sometimes you should like remember that these are just like people. Of course, my personal favorite detail about Miranda is then he got stabbed in a bar and died, and they had trouble prosecuting his killer because they forgot to read him his Miranda rights.
Stop it. I'm not even laughing about that. Now, is there a guy named 403?
Okay. There's not a guy. No hose here today.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. So a question from Lynn. Thank you so much for the question. How can YSL keep going with the defendants pleading or whatever?
Well, we still have 2 defendants left. That's how we started with how many in this? 8, I think, in this.
Oh no.
Pled, and now we're down
18. No.
Well, I meant in the context of this particular trial. There's still the 12 left to be tried in a separate proceeding. But of this particular trial, we still got 2 on charges of murder. So that's ongoing.
So I'm going to ask you a question, since we're just kind of taking, and if you would like to ask a question of uncivil law pertaining to the YSL trial, let's try to keep it or legal in nature. Just put the word question and we can try to get it included in. Okay. If we could go back in time, Bonnie Willis picks up the phone. She calls uncivil law. And she says, uncivil law, I'm about to resurrect this old dead RICO case that my previous DA didn't want to deal with. What should I do? What are you telling her?
Well, simplify would be the thing that I would recommend.
I like it.
That would be the easiest thing to do. Break it up into its component parts, because you've way overcomplicated this. You're trying to bring everyone together under one common banner. RICO itself is for organized crime, and so that's the street gang thing. But break it up and do it in smaller pieces would be the thing that I'd recommend. Why are we trying to do this all in one big shot? It's just overly complicating things. How's the jury supposed to keep it all straight? So I try to break it up would be what I'd do.
And actually, Doug Weinstein.
And don't bring RICO. RICO sucks.
I
just bring the underlying crimes.
Let me ask a question. Do you agree? My argument is that RICO should not be, states and counties should not be able to do RICOs. They should only be able to bring up the, again, as you said, the component parts rather than this whole big giant, because they're not doing a good job.
Well, Georgia in particular is particularly problematic, because apparently in Georgia you can have a RICO of one person, which is a very odd concept. And I think you only need one predicate act, which is also a really weird concept. That doesn't really work in the federal government, the federal RICO. None of those things make sense. Apparently, they like to RICO all the things in Georgia.
All the things are RICO.
They RICO'd those teachers who were cheating on tests. That was a RICO. I'm like, really? That's RICO? Serious?
Okay. All right. Because I was here. I'm a former classroom teacher, and I have classmates that went to college with me that were caught up in the Atlanta cheating scandal. If you laid them all, the 3 big Georgia RICO cases side by side, I had to say, I think the teacher scandal and the cheating scandal met the best definition of a RICO than the election interference, and definitely way more than this YSL trial. Not saying I agree with it, but I think that one was better than, and I almost believe it was better. That's why Paul Howard actually went after it and sued for it, whereas he had the same information at the same time as the YSL and said that it's not a good case. So Fonnie Willis,
They're way overly ambitious over there in Fulton.
they are very ambitious.
Maybe elect a different DA. That might be a good idea.
Missed that. Oh, Tuesday. They missed that opportunity, Georgia. We missed it. All right. Question. Do you really think they would retry this case?
Well, they've gone this long. So, yeah. But this case has appeal written all over it. For those of there's just so many problems in this trial, so many issues, so much complexity. It's a total nightmare fuel. It's like, of all the cases that I think have good chances at appeal, I think this one has the best of any case I can remember seeing. It's just so much. How does a case go on this long? It's just so much. I don't even know how you write this appeal. It'll take me 5 months just to write the appeal, trying to go through all this stuff. How am I supposed to go through this?
You're writing it as you're going. You're writing the appeals on a daily basis.
Fair. That's fair.
You write a little bit, you read a little bit, and there you go. Okay, let me ask this question. Would you have called a mistrial already?
Oh, yeah.
Besides, right at the beginning when they showed a PowerPoint slide with information that they had already been told to redact, like really within the first 45 minutes. Besides,
they've done that more than once. In this trial.
They've done it?
Yeah, they've done that more than once, that kind of thing.
So even today, they were talking about how they were not going to show something that was posted. And Judge Whitaker explained to him, like, okay, you can just take that out and then we'll be ready to go. And I'm like, how many times do you need them to? You've said this before, Judge Whitaker. But is there something? Go ahead.
This is one of my overall complaints about judges as a general matter. Not enough of them have judge balls, because the problem is they're not willing to make rulings and then actually stick with them. And rulings don't mean anything unless you're really willing to enforce them. And all you get from most of the judges is tisk, 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 don't do it again. Whereas, if I ever become a judge, I'll be like, did I stutter? Will be my refrain.
I love it. I love it. Did I stutter? All right. What did Bruce say?
What part about this did you not understand?
So with the plea to RICO and being the presumed head leaves the RICO against the remaining, and this, I think I understand what he's saying. How do y'all have a RICO if Thug is gone? Like,
well, the RICO itself is for the organization, because that's the corrupt organization. RICO is strictly, it depends how you define your terms, but you can't RICO a person, right? The organization is the thing that's corrupt. The people are the things that facilitate the RICO. So you can have many different people that are furthering the criminal enterprise. So that part's like not that challenging.
Okay. I can dig it. All right. I can dig it. Thank you. Now, Libby says, if there was evidence against Jeffrey Williams, I never heard it. And all implication and hearsay. But
implications and hearsay is kinds of evidence.
Well, that's true. But RICO really does allow a great deal of hearsay evidence, whereas in other cases you wouldn't. Am I right?
Well, I think this is mostly just a Georgia and maybe perhaps a Fulton County problem, to be really quite honest about the whole thing. I'm going to try to at least common denominator this thing and just say this is a Fulton County and Fannie Willis problem.
I feel attacked. I feel like you're picking on Georgia, man. Leave me alone, man. Stop it.
This is my point, though. I'm trying to reduce it down. I'm trying not to attack all of Georgia. I'm just trying to attack the inept, corrupt prosecutor.
Okay, I'll let you have that then. That's fair. So, yeah, because I do agree. I think that there's definitely a lot of problems here. And so in uncivil law country, y'all don't do RICO like this?
No, absolutely not. This is bizarro world. RICO is very rare most of the time, and they really hate it on the civil side. They really hate it on
Oh
the
my
civil
gosh,
side.
for real?
Oh yeah. You
Oh
try to bring
man.
a civil RICO, the judge is going to look at you like you've got 3 eyes, man. They hate you.
Oh, welcome to Georgia, ladies and gentlemen. So
But you see,
Becky
the
said,
thing with the U.S. attorney
yeah,
is
go
the
ahead.
U.S. attorney tends to be very conservative in what they bring. This is why they have like a 99% success rate once you factor in plea deals,
Right.
because they don't mess around, because they don't do shit. But the
Okay.
problem is that state prosecutors are not as good as the feds. They're not as conservative. They're not as restrained. The feds don't bring it unless they've got you 8 different ways.
Correct.
And so, but then you see, the third string team in the form of Fannie Willis, who decided to take the stand in her own defense in an ethics case, which lets you know right away that she's not a very good lawyer, because no lawyer would ever do that. That's dumb.
Yeah, I got you. So real quick, I'm looking at another question that's going to pop up in a second for us, but let's get this one out of the way. Thank you so much. Becky says, how many people in jail awaiting trial after this
I
bunch?
think it's 12.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere 12, 15. There's quite a few though. And
By the end of this, I'm going to be in trial waiting for the end of this thing. I don't know, man. I'm
hey,
not sure how Georgia has jurisdiction over me, but I'm sure they'll figure out something.
well, I live here in Georgia, so they got me thinking I've actually committed some of these crimes. So I've done these crimes. I'm like, look, let's just get it over with, people. Now, this is a good question, though. How in the heck will the 10 pounds of jewelry ever be sorted back out?
You mean the 8 pounds of jewelry that we found? Well, the 6 pounds of jewelry will be something that we deal with, and we'll eventually figure out the proud owners of the 4 pounds of jewelry.
There you go. And you can write a blues song about all the jewelry that you lost. I'm telling you, you can write a blues song about how you
When we're measuring jewelry by the pound, though.
That's kind of wild. I measure mine by the non-existence. But I'm not a jewelry guy. Are you a jewelry guy, Kurt?
I have a Rolex. That's about as fancy as it gets.
Oh man, you're high post, man. You didn't have what was that watch Jeffrey had? Something Milligan or something. It was a very gaudy watch. I'm like, what in the world would you get that for? But
it wasn't a Patek Philippe. That's usually what the really poncy jerkasses have.
Nah, it was a very somebody's gonna put it in the chat. I know they are. It was Millie something. Yeah, it was Millie something. It was definitely beyond my pay grade. That's for sure. But wait, this is one of your people, man. Jim said anyone who isn't a jewelry guy is a nerd. I do personally feel attacked by that now because I'm not a jewelry guy.
Richard Millie is. That probably means he's beyond my price range.
Yeah, there it is. Richard Millie. That's what it is. It is a gaudy looking watch. I'm like, that thing doesn't even look like it's functional, but I love
No, my everyday watch is a G-Shock.
There we go. Great. Come on. There you go.
It works great. It's radio controlled, so every day it automatically sets itself to the correct time, and it's solar, so it never goes out. It's perfect. It's literally a perfect watch. $100.
$100. Catch me outside with that. Nobody's gonna try to rob me for that watch. I love it.
It's waterproof, shockproof, automatically sets itself. It's solar powered, so it never runs out of battery. What more do you want from a watch? It's great.
See, there you go. Beyond the best, man. G-Shocks are the best. I'd never heard of it, but now I have to see. I'll look into that. Now that's a watch I will look into, and maybe even put 1 or 2 in my shopping cart. But I love it. So overall, give me your
this trial is disaster fuel. This trial is disaster fuel. It should have been dismissed long ago. The prosecution is corrupt. The prosecutor is corrupt. The appeal writes itself in 8 different ways, and I still can't believe that plea non-deal that Mr. Williams got. I don't know what is going on. I don't know what sort of backroom deal is going on, or if the judge is secretly getting a Grammy, or what bullshit's happening. But it doesn't make sense. He should be spending the next 20 years in jail. It's just because he pled guilty and the factual predicate apparently is there. I can't believe this. It doesn't make sense. I don't know if she's getting pressure from some community or whatever. I'm calling shenanigans. The whole case is full of shenanigans. Everything's shenanigans. It's shenanigans all the way down.
Well, there you go. Okay, let's But let's be honest.
Mad.
You know, like I know, that Jeffrey Williams' next album is going to be a hot seller. They're just trying to get that man out there so he can go and make this money so they can go ahead and rob him again. That's it. So he can go get him another Richard Milligan watch so they can rob him again. That's it. But no, that next album is going to be crazy. But I agree with you. There's a lot of shenanigans. Unequivocally, there's a ton of shenanigans.
No person, it's privilege. I don't even know if it's rich person privilege or if it's just like because he's an up and coming singer, like he's so big in the music community. It's some sort of privilege, but like you and I would never get that deal. You and I would be spending 20 years in prison.
Oh, I would have already been.
There is definitely some sort of privilege at play here. It's $600,000 watch privilege, I guess. I don't know. Something's wrong.
It's definitely not G-Shock privilege.
My G-Shock keeps better time.
Right, but it's not G-Shock. I'm sorry. They're not going to give you G-Shock privilege. They're going to see the G-Shock. You're going to get the 20 years. See you later, sir. I don't have 18 years left. Can I keep the
G-Shock so I can measure the 20 years by it?
We'll keep it in your evidence. Now that you're going to be guaranteed to get that back when you out of the evidence locker. Now that's will be a guarantee.
That's good news. Thanks.
Well, there you go. I'm here for you. I'm here to give you proper context for all the good things that are going to happen. All right. How would you rate? You've mentioned the prosecution, and you said you don't seem like you're the best fan or supporter. You're probably not going to run to their autograph or book signing situation. Okay, never mind. Then I won't even ask then because I can already see it in your face. Well, here, let's talk about maybe a happier.
You're going to ask me to rate it on a number scale. I'm going to have to think of new low numbers.
I was going to do that. You're right in my mind, yes. But now I'm like, I don't want to.
I was already coming up with what is a big negative number,
right? Okay. Well, how about this one? How do you think the defense is doing? And you can pick anybody that even those have.
I think the defense, for the most part, has been doing fine.
Okay.
They certainly have been doing their homework. They got yelled at by the judge because they learned about the secret meeting. That's got to be one of my favorite moments of all time. Your Honor, we've learned about this ex parte. We're a little bit concerned about it. Who told you about the ex parte?
Who told you?
Your Honor, I don't really think that's really the key issue at the moment. We're more concerned about the fact it happened. Tell us who told you about the ex parte. No.
That was pretty wild.
I'm going to hold you in contempt, which incidentally, he has appealed that, and that appeal has already been granted. So the contempt, of course, has been reversed by the Court of Appeals because it was unbelievably stupid.
Right. So, and address that for a matter. I thought once let me back up. When Judge Glanville declared Brian Steele in contempt and had him arrested.
And then he had the best baller move of all time. Your Honor, can I at least serve the time in the same jail cell as my client? Best mic drop move ever.
That
ever.
It was.
Give that man a raise.
That it was. So apparently I was like, so a judge can't say, you know what? I thought about it a little bit more. I went back to the Star Chamber. I walked Jack around for a while on the comfort break. And you know what? Never mind. Let's let
a judge absolutely can do that.
So they can.
Sure. Yeah. A judge is never bound by their own rulings. They can always admit they messed up.
Oh,
you just have to have a little humility. It's okay. We're human beings, even judges. I know this will come as a shock, but judges are in fact human beings too. I know. And sometimes they make mistakes. I know. It's okay when you make a mistake to admit it.
So he could have just said, you know what, after retrospect, you know what, never mind. And he could have just, so all of the shenanigans about appealing and having Gatko come in there and all this stuff and get schooled by Ashley Merchant didn't really need to happen.
No. And they didn't have enough humility to realize that the Court of Appeals was going to destroy them.
Yeah.
Because dude, no, you can't, I think you're missing the ball. You're missing the ball.
You're missing the whole ball.
Can we talk more about the secret meeting?
Right.
Which incidentally, by the way, just as an aside, there are circumstances in which you can do an ex parte. It can be done under some circumstances. Now, they're obviously very limited because normally you don't do that, but there are occasions. But even where you do it, you have to notify the other side afterwards.
Correct.
You know, you have to be like, okay, well, we had the secret meeting because, you know, here was the really good reason we had the secret meeting. And now we're telling you about the secret meeting. So, but you can't just do that for it's so good.
And just saying you can't ask me about it. That was kind of wild. And how
What do
dare
you mean
Who
there's
told
a secret meeting? What else? And this, of course, raises the question: what other secret meetings have we been having? What other secrets are you not telling me, Your Honor? This is kind of concerning. It raises systematic concerns.
And being the fact, if you go back and watch that video, personally, I think is one of the better comedy skits from One Charlie in a while. The prosecution is sitting there looking like the kids that are in class that have been cheating, but they caught one kid cheating and the teacher's scolding them out, and they're looking like, oh man, I'm just gonna keep my head down. I don't want them to know that I was doing it. You can tell they know that they were up to no good. And they know they should be getting scolded out just as much, but they let it go. And that is crazy, nasty work. But yeah, this case
I'm blaming Fannie Willis. This is her fault. She's infected the entire district. It has to be purged.
There's some.
Where's the Attorney General of Georgia? Come in and fix this shit.
So, I want to actually bring that up because you see in other situations where the Attorney General might step in and say something, do something, or provide some kind of direction and guidance. I don't know. Do you think that is a reasonable something to pursue? Like, people of Georgia, a writing campaign to get the Attorney General involved. Is that reasonable or?
Yeah, very reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, because we need some adult supervision.
They are the head law enforcement for the state. That's their job. So when other members of the executive branch are doing the law enforcement wrong, that's why you have the Attorney General. It'd be like, you're doing the law enforcement wrong.
Right. Yeah, we need adult
Time
supervision.
to saddle up, baby. Grow some Attorney General balls.
There you go. Okay. No, that was great, man. Thank you so much. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions that have popped up. I think I got them all. I think we got them all. That was great, man. I appreciate you. Now, do you plan to have you been watching the YSL trial and keeping up with it, or are you going to catch on the repeat?
Intermittently, you know, when there's a highlight every once in a while. I haven't been watching it every day today, and I think I'm really glad at this point because I think I'd be losing my sanity if I was trying to watch this on an ongoing day. What are we on, day 180?
160.
Okay. Yeah. No. That sounds like nightmare fuel.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's more. I noticed Judge Whitaker sounds extremely frustrated today and yesterday. She sounds really over it. But I'm like, well, Judge Whitaker, you know what you can do, right? You can do something about this.
Mistrial it, baby. Mistrial it.
And then you can
Everyone
go and
goes
take it to the house.
Screw you guys. I'm done.
I'm out the door. Okay. Now, with the information that you have, do you think this trial will end? You say it would end in February. Is that what you're thinking?
At least for the prosecution,
for those two right now,
I imagine, yeah.
Really? Okay. I just don't
seems reasonable.
I just don't see the state giving up the reins. And
they're going to spend 4 years on the Court of Appeals. I'll catch you during the JD Vance administration, I guess. I don't know.
Wild. Well, I appreciate you, Uncivil Law. Thank you so much for hanging out. I don't see any other questions. I think we've scratched everybody's legal itch tonight. We've helped them out. The pre-K law school. Looks like lots of good people have popped in. And
well, if you do like legal analysis, come over to my channel. I try to do a lot of Supreme Court stuff, and the Supreme Court is back in session. They start the first Monday of October, so we're starting to hear some cases. And I try to cover the big ones at least. So
is there one?
Check out Supreme Court stuff, learn a little bit about the Constitution.
Which ones are they on now? What are they on now, if you don't mind?
There's the one that's really interesting. I think it's the 2nd of December, dealing with the transgender issue. One of the states tried to ban a transgender athlete. And so the Supreme Court's hearing that case. So that should get everyone's cackles up in a roar, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. I love it. Well, we will check you out. We know where to find you. If the mods could please, I know I've seen it in there, but mods could please make sure that Uncivil Law's information and YouTube channel are dropped in the chat. I would greatly I appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
I was
Let's see.
working on a case today dealing with the child, 10-year-old. I think it was Georgia too, where the 10-year-old was allowed by their family to, go walking on their own, and they arrested the mom, put her in jail just for their kid like walking outside unsupervised. You missed that story?
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
A 10-year-old, like a
Yeah.
fifth grader.
Yeah. I was like, yeah,
Wait,
the fifth
like
grader was
fourth
allowed to go outside by himself and walk around outside with no adult supervision. Someone called the police and they arrested the mom. And now they're contemplating prosecuting her. I'm like, this is no.
Georgia's going to Georgia. I had never heard of it. The reason I'm kind of pensive is because I'm pretty sure it probably did happen because Georgia's going to Georgia. Man, that's crazy. We want them to go outside. Look, I want mine to go outside.
Touch grass.
Go outside and touch some grass. Absolutely. Then you won't be cutting your hair and stuff and trying to wear blue bracelets and stuff.
Also, if anyone knows anyone in the Trump administration, I'm putting my name out there for Solicitor General. So somebody call somebody.
Well, there we go. Somebody call somebody, let them know that uncivil law wants to be Solicitor General. What does a Solicitor General do?
Principally argues in front of the Supreme Court for the U.S. government.
Okay. I like it. Well, Mandy said, don't worry about it. She's about to text Trump for you right now.
Excellent.
There you go. We're going to put it out on X. We're going to tell Elon to pass it on. Pass the thing on. Pass the thing on. I love it. You should go for Attorney General, they're saying.
I don't want the job. I don't really want the job. I want to be Solicitor General. I think it's a better job. That's what I think.
I just learned about it, so now you're telling me. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's only fourth highest ranking at DOJ, so it's not even that big a deal, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, uncivil law, I want to thank you again for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you for your time and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if TLA is still in the chat, but again, TLA, I'll let you get the penultimate best live chat on the planet if Kurt sends me that cool snazzy sign behind him. So that's all I got for you, my guy. The rest of y'all, this is my mother calling me. What does my mother need? Hold on one second. All right. But the rest of y'all, I want to say thank y'all so much for not only for tapping in with us tonight, but again, making the best live chat on the world. Thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all. Kurt, anything you want to say before we break out of here?
No, it's been fun.
I appreciate you, man. You're always welcome, sir. Whenever new things pop up on the Supreme Court, you're welcome to come through and chop it up with us. Once we find out where Jeffrey's watch went, we can come and chop it up. Or when his new blues album comes out, we can do a listening party. How about that? Or jazz album. All right, everybody.
Fun,
I love it. Well, hey, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And we'll see you all real soon. Let me drop you back. I'll be right back, Kurt. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. That was a lot of fun. Again, please make sure you go check out Uncivil Law here on YouTube and all the other social media places that these cool people hang out. I appreciate you all. And until next time, everybody, we'll do it again. Grace and peace. Take care.
Hit that like for deal with Christian. Yo, for deal with Christian. Smash that bell for DWC. Yo, smash it. Just smash it. Hit that like for deal with Christian. For deal with Christian. Smash that bell for DWC. Yo, smash it. Just smash it. Hit that like for deal with Christian.